I call the Township of Aleppo workshop meeting of November 8th, 2021 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
President Jones,
Present.
Vice President Williams is not here. Commissioner Dara,
Present.
Commissioner Richard, Present. Commissioner Haluka,
Present.
Solicitor Stone.
Here.
And this meeting will be recorded, uploaded to YouTube, and visible to anyone anytime they want to watch it. Do I hear a motion to approve the October 18th, 2021 legislative meeting minutes? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
I would just report on the discussion that we had about the feasibility study that was presented to the report was presented to the authority board, and some citizens were present and got copies of it as well.
Good. Election results. This is pretty simple. Number one, thank you to Commissioner Haluka for agreeing to fill in the blank on the ballot for the two-year commissioner term. Number two, thanks to everyone in the room for continuing to serve Aleppo Township. And number three, thanks to everybody that came out to vote. I believe it was 47% of our voters, which is a pretty significant turnout for an off-year election.
Very nice.
Old business, status update on the zoning ordinance revision.
We did not have a planning commission meeting this month, so we have another one next month, but in the meantime, there'll be another staff meeting between the zoning consultants and Harlan and me to continue to work on that revision. It's not gonna be ready to go by the end of the year as our original goal, but we'll be doing it in the first, presenting it to the board and having public hearings and things in the first quarter of 2022, hopefully. So it's still moving.
Any questions? Emergency access from Swiftly Heights Manor. I think, Gwen, you can lead this one.
So in your packet, you got a copy of the letter from, I think it's the president of the Manor Board, requesting that the township look into or take action to create this opening in the tree line to allow cars to drive out of the rear end of the backside of Swiftly Heights Drive, back by the loop, and out onto a private driveway that will then drops onto Weber. This issue was talked about several years ago, and we actually got as far as having easement drawings and easement agreements for the property owners along that private access off of Weber. But I hadn't even had a chance to approach the actual residents yet, but we talked about it in a meeting and somebody had received the digest, and the two residents who were right there adjacent to the road came to me and very strongly expressed their displeasure at the concept of opening that in any way. So we just kind of set it aside, just had the file, and I just tucked it aside for now. But so I do have some information on it, but now that you've received the request to talk about it some more.
Yeah, can I make just one kind of correction? The origin of the emergency access was never meant to be, I actually started this whole thing way back whenever, and I can tell you its birth was the accident with Kim when Swickley Heights, when Swickley Ridge was blocked off. And I looked over and I saw that giant 100-foot high tree sitting in Lawrence's front yard, and decided that if that fell, the entire ridge, not only the ridge, but the entire manor would be stuck. It is not meant for private vehicles. It isn't meant that if the road's blocked, that people that want to go to Giant Eagle can drive their private vehicle down through the woods and onto their driveway. It's meant for a professional evacuation from the manor. That's different. So it would only be used by the ATVs, the trucks of Aleppo, the ambulances and the rescue vehicles of Valley Ambulance, Quaker Valley Ambulance. It wouldn't be, hey, we can't get out of the manor. There's a tree across Swickley Heights Drive. So let's open the emergency entrance and let everybody that wants to go to church in Giant Eagle, et cetera, drive down through this lady's driveway.
Would you have to have a lock gate?
Yes.
To let access?
Or a chain or something that would keep that access closed.
I just noticed something, I'm not wearing a mask. Are we wearing masks?
I think it's a
I
personal
thought to wear
choice
them
at this
everywhere,
point.
so.
I still wear mine in
Would
meetings,
you be so kind as to get me one?
They're the-
but I think the county may have relaxed that.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
I'm not
county is
sure.
not. It is not a mandate. It
No,
is
but I see everybody else is and I don't. So I will.
Yeah, join the club.
Welcome aboard.
the success of peer pressure.
So
It was not a protest.
you're saying the residents' concern about it being used by multiple vehicles is not, wouldn't be a concern actually? because
Right,
of the-
I just caught when Gwen said that it would be open for people to take their private vehicles down there.
That's what it was originally intended, was in an evacuate, when we had the discussion 2 years ago, was if there was an evacuation, it would be a way of allowing residents to get out. Not back and forth for errands, but allowing.
Well,
people
no,
to
in the
escape
case of an
their-
emergency evacuation,
Yeah.
yes, that would absolutely
what it
be
was.
true.
I
But
will
not
say-
in the case of the inconvenience because there's not an exit from the manor. I
Right.
guess is what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, and the residents who came to me, the property owners adjacent, didn't want it cleared. They have a tree line that separates that part of Swickley Heights Drive from this, and they both said, at the time, that they said that part of the reason they picked the houses that are back there is because they're on a dead-end area, it's private, and they didn't want it to become even a pedestrian thoroughfare, and if it was cleared and paved and all that, it would just be people walking, dogs and everything, through their front yards,
How much
basically, so.
clearance is required?
For a fire truck?
No, how many trees are there?
I have not looked at it myself yet.
Because what Norm had communicated to me is that it's the removal of 2 trees. I don't know if that's true or not, I haven't been back
I
there.
haven't been there yet, and I don't know
Okay.
about the condition of the ground, because you can remove the trees, but if there's a slight ravine there that wouldn't
Right,
allow a vehicle, then you would have to do something to the surface to then allow them, a vehicle, even a fire truck, you don't want it.
Harlan, what
So
would be?
we went down this road, I believe, no pun intended. We went down this road a couple of years ago, as Gwen pointed out. There's 2 ways that you can gain access over private property. You can condemn it and pay for it, or you can get an easement from the property owner consensually, and that would give you your access. We had the engineer, I think HRG, Ben Gilberti, they did a survey and they identified where the easement would go and who the property owners were. For better or for worse, the property owners would not consent to granting us an easement for access, even for emergencies. So at that point, the discussion pretty much came to a halt. Unless you're prepared to actually condemn that access for public use, I don't know how else you get over private property and the private property rights.
How many homeowners are there, Gwen?
I think there's 4,
There are
George.
4, one house doesn't, it's along that, but their driveway's on actual Weber,
Was
not this
anybody
road.
in favor?
I didn't even approach all of them yet. I didn't even do a formal letter and everything to them, because 2 of them came out so strongly that we just said, oh, they came out strongly.
Yeah, if you don't get all 4,
it's a null and void.
Did they come out so strongly against the tree removal, the concept, all of the above?
All of the above, I believe.
2 years ago, the concept was to improve the road, because if we were going to be taking it over, part of what we were going to be offering them was a driveway that they no longer, because it's private, so they pay to have it paved, they pay to have it snow removal. We were not, and
We were
had
not-
a
we were-
discussion,
yeah.
we had not yet determined the legal definition of maintenance either. This was, the original thought was going to be a one-time improvement, like here, we are going to pave this for you, but it's not gonna become a public road that we plow or anything
Okay,
like that.
is there another location option in the manor?
I don't believe so. There was another location option that would pop out onto Vecchio Drive, but that was less desirable, more of a slope. This was the shortest amount of,
It was the only
New
one
road.
Ben was recommending.
Ye-
It was the only one Ben was recommending.
was.
Yes.
yeah, the other one is not easy access.
Does the manor have any better relationship to the poor property owners than we do?
I wouldn't say we don't have a good relationship with them, I can't speak to,
I just think they're kind of right next door. I wondered,
I know that they've had some discussions about trash and things like that in the past as well.
and could we legally define and enforce the limited use concept?
Yes, that's one of the nice things about an easement is you can restrict it in scope to emergencies or emergency access only. So yeah, with an easement, you can narrow the scope.
And would it be appropriate for us to provide improvements to make up for the removal of the other trees?
You can do that. You can negotiate, for example, this is what Gwen and I were talking about. You could negotiate in exchange for a limited access easement to be used in emergency situations only. We would agree to upgrade or improve the existing road, a one-time investment, and to, as you put it, put some additional shrubbery in or anything like that would be negotiable.
Well,
Could
Did
be
you say
negotiable.
pedestrians? What was the concern?
It was because they have a tree line, a tree barrier, and
Nobody
they
walks
just,
through there.
it's kind of closed.
I see,
They're kind of private, in the summertime with the leaves and everything. It's a little bit more private, it's like an edge to their property, and they were not interested in just having,
Like
it
if
just-
people would walk.
They're afraid that
dogs
people
or
walking their
something.
dogs would now
Okay.
see that as a way down to Weber Road.
Well, yeah.
And Judy, you discussed a couple of meetings ago that in an emergency, things are gonna happen regardless.
Yes, and I did have that discussion with both Peter and Norm, because when they originally brought this back up at the board meeting, their concern was, say there's a tree across Wickley Heights Drive, or there's, some reason you can't get out and somebody's having a heart attack. And my response was, if somebody's having a heart attack and there's a tree across Wickley Heights Drive, I'm gonna put them in the back of the ATV from Aleppo, go through Kathy Lawrence's side yard, and it's gonna be over. There's not a time when you're gonna have 2 or 3 patients stuck in the manor that I can't get out. I guarantee you I can get them out. I can get them out in my Subaru.
It would be.
This would be only in the case of a larger evacuation where you had to move multiple people in vehicles, and so you couldn't, you can fit 3 people on an ATV, and so you couldn't take
But
half the manor out through Lawrence's backyard.
I would think in a massive emergency, the trees are leaving anyways.
And I don't wanna say that, but if it's
Well,
if it's an evacuation, we'll be meeting here declaring an emergency, which will give us the right to cut down the trees and take people out of the manor.
There you go. That's true.
I think based upon this letter, well, the other thing is,
Well, maybe they just need the assurance of that fact, that there isn't a situation where we would be unable to evacuate people. Because truly what would happen is, and I'm saying this more for public, and correct me if I'm wrong, Harlan, but I think I understand this pretty well, is if, I don't know, there was a big fire, there was something that needed to be evacuated, there was some chemical involved in the fire that we needed to get people out of the manor, I would simply come over here and say, we need to declare this as an emergency. George would sign a little paper, and we would go over with chainsaws with Chief, cut down the trees and evacuate people from the manor, and we would have a legal right to do that, I believe, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, in a way, it would be nice to have that spelled out in an easement that we could record. But in another way, as a practical matter, you're right,
Yeah,
Judy.
I think we're ruffling
In a
feathers for
real
you.
emergency, that piece of paper isn't
We'll
gonna.
get them out of there. I mean,
Gwen, what was submitted to the owners originally, a couple of years ago?
Nothing yet. I didn't even get
It
to
was just
that.
it was just a phone call.
It was a conversation on video that they watched and.
They heard us talking about it on the meeting,
In the meeting.
and then they
Yes,
responded.
they
to Glenn.
responded within
Right.
2 days, yes. So
And by
I
the way,
didn't
we-
even have any, because we had not yet worked out the language, the understanding of what maintenance meant. So we weren't even prepared to present yet, and they heard,
All right, so,
understood the
But we
conversation.
did go so far as to invest in a title search, the engineering fees,
right,
the drawings, and I drafted at least a rough draft of an easement along the lines that you just mentioned.
Did we explore what it would take to put up a gate that was basically an effective and attractive screen?
We did not.
No,
We
I
did not.
don't,
We
I
only
don't
ever
think so,
talked
too.
about paving it, as part of what we would offer as part of this, and then having it gated so that it could not be accessed. We did not explore, like a 6-foot-high green gate or something.
Realistically, to try to make it happen with these people's cooperation, I think you have to go out of your way to make it
Yeah.
nice, if you
Well,
will.
I have a little bit of a concern beyond that, though. The emergency exit that we're looking at is for the manor part of the HOA, just for the townhouses. So if we go through all this and we provide an emergency exit for the townhouses, in the situation that brought all this up, which was Kim's accident, the townhouses were fine, the ridge had nowhere to go.
Right.
So is the next thing that's gonna come to the table, well, what about the ridge? How do we get the ridge out? Yeah, I just see this as kind of multiplying itself.
well, if any of the involved property owners are listening, I hope you can hear that severe conditions could be put on this emergency exit. I hope you hear that we would be amenable to hearing what might satisfy your concerns. And I think you can expect, because of the letter from the manor, that a memo is coming your way detailing this discussion. Okay, Gwen?
Would you is that what the board wants me to approach them now?
I think we should, but I don't know if that takes a vote.
Just conversationally, to rehear the concerns, we're not
Well,
presenting with the.
The issue has come up again. I don't think we can ignore it.
Right,
I think that maybe all the information wasn't transferred the last time, because we kind of stopped. And I think a memo, a letter, that states all these conditions and all the things we're willing to do and that we're willing to stand by, will the conversation reopen?
So I think it should be done by motion. I think it should be a motion to authorize the township manager to reach out to the property owners and provide them with the additional information.
So I want to be clear of what we are talking about. Are we just talking about some options, or are we going with a concrete proposal? Because if we're going with a proposal like we have in here with the easement agreements and stuff, they're not quite ready to send out yet. We still have to talk about some of the
Can we
language.
simply go with a question of
What
what would it take for this to work? What would it take
Sure.
from those
I
homeowners?
think-
Yeah, that's why I'm saying
To grant us an easement.
to reach
But to-
out to
right.
them.
Just have a conversation
have a-
with them.
and have
is
that
what I think.
conversation.
That might be
Would
with the
you-
stage
would
where we
you put
are.
that in a motion, please?
Sure, I make a motion to authorize Gwen to reach out to the property owners at the back of Swickley Heights Manor to ascertain what they would be interested in negotiating to secure an easement for
An
us
emergency
for
access easement.
emergency access.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Okay. And Peter, if you happen to listen to this, any assistance that the manor board can give is welcome. All right, new business. Status update 2022 budget.
The 2022 budget is significantly underway. The first preliminary draft has been given to the Finance Committee, which is George and Clayton, our treasurer. And I hope to meet with them sometime this week to go over some of the details. And it would be my goal to have a draft to you next week, or, you know, to be able to hand it out the meeting, or, you know, at least provide it to you that week. And then it would be adopted in December, because we have advertising requirements and things for this.
Anybody's welcome to attend that meeting, which I think is Thursday, tentatively.
Yes, and are we doing that then?
Pardon me?
We can do that then, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have it on my calendar in dark pencil.
Mhm.
So, Clayton and I have both seen the preliminary budget, and I think, is it next week we hear from the auditor?
Yes, the auditor should be at the legislative meeting.
Next week we'll hear the 2020 auditor report. And without getting into the details, our revenue was higher and our expenses were lower. So we do have a carryover. And how that carryover is treated, we listened to the auditor a little more carefully than I've done to this point. So we had a good year. So we'll hear from the auditor next week.
Yes.
Is there any citizen participation day?
No.
None.
Can,
Did you have a meeting with the new Swarthmore Borough manager?
I did not, it ended up being postponed. We're gonna meet late on Thursday. So it had to get rescheduled.
Is there an executive session necessary?
don't adjourn.
Hmm?
Before you adjourn, I just want a minute to kind of clarify something publicly. It was brought to my attention the day of the election that it was believed that Masonic had a major outbreak of COVID, and that the Hawthorne area was full of COVID patients. That is the area that they planned on using surge for COVID. I heard that from two people that day. I immediately called Eric, who we communicate on almost once or twice a week. I get the numbers from Allegheny County on what the outbreaks are. It's absolutely false. I've had 5 or 6 phone calls since Election Day of people who are concerned about this large outbreak at Masonic. There is not an outbreak at Masonic. Never has been. They've never been out of single digits. They are still holding. Everything is safe, secure, and they're still doing as well as they have been doing. So I just wanted to clarify before that kind of turns into a fire red rumor mill, that is not true.
Thank you very much. Any other new business? Then the meeting is adjourned.